Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing as well as analysing tech news, which as usual has popped up in the past 24 or so hours. Hopefully, you're having an amazing day. We have lots of news to get through in this video. Let's have a small update for the Matisse Refresh. You are probably aware by now that the 3900 XT, 3800 XT, and the 3600 XT have all been doing the rounds online, although AMD themselves have not officially commented on the existence of these processors. They are expected to launch the 7th of July, which is a year to the day that we saw the Ryzen 3000 series launch. It's kind of weird how those CPUs are almost a year old already, isn't it? Don't have a clue where the hell that time went. Anywho, there's two theories why these processors are being worked on. Theory one, well, AMD will possibly have the 4900 XT and the 4950 XT launch first, and then the lower end SKUs for the Ryzen 4000 series launch later. Furthermore, Zen 2 at the moment is doing pretty well, a more mature process. And we've seen the 3100 and the 3300 both overclock really well. So it kind of makes sense for AMD to, well, I guess the best way of describing it is to wring some money out of the machine. And the other option is that there are some rumors that the Ryzen 4000 series Zen 3 for desktop will launch a little later than what we'd anticipated. So it could be Q4 this year or even early Q1, which of course is next year. We don't ultimately know which of those scenarios is true, but either way, it looks like we will be seeing these CPUs launch, because not only is there a ton of evidence, including benchmarks at the moment, we've also had all the specifications essentially leaked. Basically, it looks like they're essentially the same CPU. There's not massive changes in the logic or anything, but they have slightly higher clock frequencies. We're looking 100 to 200 megahertz higher. There is actually conflicting information there. And now we have what essentially is the final nail in the coffin, as an online retailer by the name of Matriel, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, has listed these processors. And once again, the 3900 XT, the 3800 XT, and the 3600 XT have all been confirmed. I'm very skeptical of the prices of these CPUs. For example, the 3900 is listed at €500, whereas the 3800 XT is listed at 459. And I'm sure we can agree that there's no way in hell that that's the real pricing, because why on earth would you buy the 3800 XT? It just makes no sense for it to be so close in terms of pricing. So most likely these are placeholders, and we've actually seen some reports that the 3800 is going to be around the €400 mark, which makes a lot more sense. Realistically, the 3900 XT is probably going to be around the same price as what we see already with the 3900X. But either way, it's going to be fascinating to see exactly how these CPUs perform, and I'm going to be super curious to see how well they overclock as well. From AMD, let's switch to Intel, because there is an extremely interesting story that's been floating around the last day or so. In fact, I was going to cover this yesterday, but I was really busy with doing photography for Intel's 10th generation processors. We actually had a massive delay of those CPUs getting to us simply because of the current global crisis. Basically, the CPUs, let's just say, got delayed in transit, which was a real shame. Obviously, we were supposed to have gotten them prior to the launch, but these things happen. And so I was really busy doing the photography for that. And I'm also going to be doing a couple of very cool builds as well, which will be something I'm really looking forward to. I don't really do builds on the channel, so I'm really looking forward to doing some kind of fun builds. But anyway, getting to the news itself, we actually have an updated understanding now, at least if this rumor is accurate, on how Intel's upcoming architectures will compare against Skylake, with Skylake being the base. And we even have information on how Alder Lake will be competing against AMD's Zen processors. So this info, of course, is definitely unofficial. So if it turns out to be inaccurate, don't blame me. Anyway, it is from Twitter user Miwu, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and they actually leaked a whole bunch of AMD info that I recently covered as well. But I will once again stress that Skylake as you can see in this tweet, is the base here. So we have a one-time scaling because obviously, well, Skylake is competing against itself. Insert 14nm memes here. Skylake originally debuted with the, Skylake architecture with CPUs like the 6600 and the 6700K, and was pretty well received. It was a decent IPC bump over Haswell, and it also overclocked fairly well. Still 4 cores, 8 threads for the mainstream. Then we saw the 8700K, 8600K with Coffee Lake, which of course bought 6 cores, 12 threads, and now we are finally on to Comet Lake, which is 10 cores, 20 threads. And then after that, there are several architectures which we know about. So the first one is Sunny Cove. Intel themselves have confirmed that Sunny Cove has an 18%-ish IPC gain over Skylake. This is something that's also been tested. It is also on the 10nm process. And according to Intel's own CPU core roadmap, single thread performance, new ISA, and scalability improved. That is Sunny Cove. After that was Willow Cove. Willow Cove really was more of an optimization on Sunny Cove, so that's why the IPC gains here were so small. If you look, it's 7% essentially increased from Sunny to Willow. This has not been officially confirmed, from my knowledge, by Intel, although I believe it was late last year or early this year. I did get told that that is roughly what we're going to be looking at with Willow Cove. I actually put out a video which was really focused on Intel's future architectures, which is both Golden and Ocean Cove, which is what we're going to discuss in just a second. But Willow Cove, that is also optimized for power efficiency, which is obviously never a bad thing, but it doesn't bring raw performance to the table. And there are also security features as well. Then Golden Cove is next, which once again pushes ST performance, AI, networking, and security/features. Now, according to the information we have here, Golden Cove will be a 50% performance uplift over Skylake. And then the architecture after that is Ocean Cove. And Ocean Cove has an 80% performance uplift over Skylake. So put a pin on that information for just a moment, because what we also know is that Alder Lake will be coming. And Alder Lake is rumoured to be an 8+8 core processor. And Alder Lake is said, at least according to this information, to actually outperform the 3950X, despite what you can consider to be a performance advantage. Remember, this is basically a big little design for Alder Lake. And even so, it is still said to be outperforming the 3950X. The problem I've got with that, well, there's a few issues. The first is that it's not stating what workload. Are we talking Cinebench? Are we talking like Adobe Premiere? Are we talking like games? If so, what games? There's all of those questions when it comes to outperforming. Like, what exactly is it outperforming it by, and how much is it outperforming it by in each application? Another issue is what frequencies are the samples that are being tested compared to the final retail samples. For example, will we see a situation where Alder Lake can hit, let's just say 5 gigahertz, and these engineering samples are hitting, let's just say 4.2 gigahertz? I'm obviously just pulling figures out my ass here. So is that the case? Are the clock frequencies that it's achieving nowhere near as fast as the final production silicon? Either way, I think Intel will be a lot more competitive in the future, and they need to be, of course, because AMD will continue to churn out awesome CPUs. We know that AMD's roadmap is extremely aggressive. I'm certain that Zen 3 is not going to just be, it's nice. I think AMD will definitely make AM4 go out with a bang with the Zen 3 architecture. And also I'm hearing great things, of course, regarding AMD's GPU roadmap as well. RDNA 1 was decent-ish. If you just look at the power consumption, for example, in isolation, and you kind of just say, well, it's fine. But then when you actually take into account how the power consumption was against NVIDIA, And then you also remember that one is on a 12nm process and the other is on a 7nm process. RDNA is not exactly that impressive, but obviously from the internal slides that AMD have released officially, we saw that once again there's a 50% efficiency improvement for RDNA 1 going to RDNA 2. So AMD will definitely be very competitive in the GPU arena, and they're going to do the same for the CPUs as well. I think that they're going to continue to churn out processors. I do think, however, that Intel will be hitting back hard. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where AMD are going to just run away with things. And that's good for us as end users. One of the things that I was told is that Ryzen 4000 is going to remain on 16 cores. So 16 cores, 32 threads. But for Ryzen 5000 and later, core counts will really be determined on the competitiveness of Intel. So in other words, if you want a high-performing Ryzen 5000 onwards processor, you better really be on Intel's side and hope that they kick AMD in the shin so that AMD can kick Intel in the shin. And it's just great for us as we watch each company kick the other one in the shin. And now let's finish off with a couple of pieces of news pertaining to the next generation consoles. As basically everyone and their grandmother knows at this point, in just a few days, Sony will officially be revealing the PlayStation 5, or at the very least, we'll have a much better idea of what Sony are working on with the PlayStation 5. And Dusk Golem on Twitter has actually provided a bit of insight into the next Silent Hill game. He claims that Silent Hill will be on the PlayStation 5. It will be an exclusive, and we should see a reveal very soon, actually. And furthermore, it will be a gameplay reveal. It's apparently in a playable state. They've also stated that the studio which is working on this is apparently the same studio who created Until Dawn, known as Supermassive Games. Furthermore, of course, Dusk Golem has also confirmed that Resident Evil 8 is going to also be debuting at some point this month as well. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. The normal stuff, if you did, like, share, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Thanks very much. Bye for now.